Hey everyone, this is Reed Prescott. I am the Sales and Field Development Manager for Nutrimetrics for the United States, and welcome to tonight's webinar. There we go. Okay. Okay, so tonight's topic is, we're calling it an approach workshop. So this is episode 101. And basically it's what do we say when we meet new people? We have a very broad and deep business that we get to participate in. Nutrimetrics happens to just be one division of this broad and deep business. And we meet a lot of people along the way that may or may not be a good fit either as a customer for one of our products or services, or as a potential business partner, or as a great referral source. So before we start tonight, I just want to set up some expectations. And that is where we all are in the education funnel. So obviously, you've been to an NC training, or you wouldn't be on the webinar tonight. You've also taken your Basic 5 training and your new distributor training at least once. And by at least once, I mean you've taken it as many times as you need to by maybe different trainers until you understand how our business operates, the structure of it, and the strategy of it through the NDT, and you understand the 5 tenets, if you will, of not just building an unfranchised business, but building any kind of successful business. And that's what's taught in the Basic 5. If you're in an area where there isn't a training hub, you can get the Basic 5 and the NDT training online from your unfranchised account. So that's what's expected moving forward. So if you have questions tonight that refer to those trainings, I'm going to refer you back to those trainings or to the career manual, because my job is to make everyone here as self-sufficient as possible, and then we can all duplicate that with our teams. Another thing, sort of a free gift tonight, is in this webinar, whenever you see an item of text that is blue and italicized, that is a script that you can use. And again, that's what will soon be on some form of document or file available to you guys in the Facebook groups. And please remember that these are my words. These are things that I say that have worked for me. But you want to make whatever it is that you like about the statement, you want to make sure that it's coming from your voice. So how do we approach new people? Well, it's really simple. We just make new friends. So if you're I don't even really care for the word approach. If you approach a person as a, say, potential customer or a business partner, then it gets into, or it can get into that kind of weird space because you have expectations of how you want this meeting or this, this coffee to go. So really, take your how do I approach so-and-so to how do I make a new friend in this profession? Or how do I make new friends in general, okay? So there's many ways to make new friends. The 3-foot rule, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. You can go to meetups. The meetup.com is a really great website. When I first started building my business, I went to meetups that were around the areas that I was building the business in. And to be quite honest, I did not have great experiences there. When I did start to have great experience with meetups, it's when I went because I was doing a meetup of something else that I actually already enjoyed or that I was interested in outside of business. And that's when I would actually make friends. And sometimes those friends would turn into customers. Sometimes they might turn into business partners. And the worst case scenario is they turn out to be friends. You can go to networking events, chambers of commerce, PTA meetings, your kids' events if you have kids. Do volunteer work in areas of town or areas of interest that you have. And these are all ways to approach new people or just make new friends. And sometimes it's just as simple as go somewhere new to meet new people. I'm going to take a step back and talk about networking events. There are professional networking groups that exist, many different kinds. And the only tip that I would like to extend to all of you Nutrimetrics consultants is that if you're going to join a professional networking group, make sure that you are pretty much bulletproof in and around Nutrimetrics. And I say that because, remember, you are representing the brand. And I want to make sure that the brand is strong everywhere. So that would be my biggest recommendation when it comes to some of those weekly networking event type groups that you would join. And how do you make a new friend? It's easy. You just start asking them questions about themselves. Where do you live? What do you do? Do you have kids? What do you love to do? Right? And a lot of this is taken care of in our basic 5 training, but it doesn't even have to be questions that may be pointed in a certain direction so that you get a response that leads to a business question, which is certainly a great way to do it. But just start, everything starts with hello. So just start making new friends instead of trying to approach new people. I hope that makes sense. So let's talk about the 3-foot rule. I'm going to speak about what works for me in my world. And along the same theme as the previous slide, the 3-foot rule for me is about making a new friend, not necessarily a new customer. When you make a friend, when you build trust, when you build a relationship, that's what I found leads to somebody becoming a customer or maybe even a business partner with us. Unless we just have we have pretty much everything, but unless they've expressed a need that we can fill, then we're still in a consulting mode and we're still in a friendship mode. If somebody says, oh my goodness, I'm aching all over, you might say, well, listen, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that there's a product that I've used that has helped reduce that kind of pain in my body. Something like that. So you're coming from a friendly level, if that happens to be the conversation, rather than let me sell you this. So the 3-foot rule is, for anyone who doesn't know, is literally talking to anybody within a 3-foot circumference of you. Depending on where you live, that may be challenging. I live in New York City. I can't talk to everybody who's in the 3-foot rule. But here is, I want to go over first a common misconception with how to begin a conversation. First of all, like I just said, every conversation begins with some form of hello, how do you do? But what we've been taught is to compliment somebody. And that's absolutely what you should do. But usually I found that training is something like, those are great shoes. Where did you get them? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you may not be getting as far as you'd like to simply by saying, those are great shoes. Where did you get them? They might say, oh, I got them at fill in the blank. And then you're kind of left with nothing. And you're trying to force the conversation. And that's because there's something missing. There's nothing personal, really, about what you just said to that person. Now, it's kind of implied that if they're wearing great shoes, then they probably have good style or good taste or a good eye. But why don't we just let them know that we think we think that of them? So this might sound like, those are great shoes. You have great style. Where did you get them? And that one little sentence can really make a difference because now you've given them a compliment. And of course, the key is to find something to compliment them about, and it has to be sincere. If you want to just practice getting out of your comfort zone, which is what I did a few years back, and I remember the first compliment, I went out with a mentor of mine, and I watched her begin conversations, and then we were waiting in line at the bank, and she said, it's your turn. And there was a woman in front of us wearing green Converse, and I think green Converse are cool. So it was a sincere compliment. And that I basically said, I didn't know that you have great style part of it yet. So I said, those are really cool shoes. I may or may not have said, where did you get them? But it began a conversation and it didn't lead anywhere. And I wasn't expecting it to lead anywhere. I was just trying to take that next step to get outside of my own comfort zone. So don't put the expectation on yourself, if this is something that's brand new to you, that you have to get from A to Z your first time out. Just get from A to B. So shoes and clothes are great. It's something that most people can relate to. However, there are some situations where it just might be kind of weird and not appropriate, especially if a man happens to make a compliment to a woman. That may or may not, depending on how the compliment is made, be misconstrued the wrong way. So something that you may want to add is, those are great shoes, you have great style. If you're a man, my girlfriend would love those, right? So then you've set that boundary and no expectation to the person that you're talking to. So, but let's take this out of fashion and let's go to, say, technology, right? So maybe you're at a Starbucks or anywhere really, and you see somebody with the latest gadget. I'm just going to use an iPad here. So instead of saying, is that the newest iPad? Where did you get it? You might say, is that the newest iPad? I bet you're the coolest guy in your neighborhood right now. Where did you get it? And then, if you want to lead it to maybe a shop.com conversation, you might say, did you get a good deal on it? And they'll probably say, no, I didn't know I could. And then that could very well lead into, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that I own a business where I teach people how to save money on everything that they buy in life, or something like that. All right, so it's really important to know who you know and who the people you know. And Mr. Rogers said it best, who are the people in your neighborhood? And it was so important to him, he said it 2 more times, in your neighborhood. So here's just a list, and this is just what came to my mind when I put this slide together. There are probably 50 plus other people, occupations that live in and around your neighborhood. And almost every one of these, I bet we could find a solution within the shop.com world for every single one of these people or professions, including a farmer. We'd have to ask them some questions first, of course. But I bet we could find a solution, whether it's a product or service or maybe a business opportunity, through all of these professions. And it's important to know what you have in your back pocket. Now, this is italicized in green, not in blue, but feel free to use this as very quick soundbite. And this is just something that I use when I'm trying to be very succinct and efficient in describing some of the other divisions that are not Nutrimetrics. So Conquer Entertainment is music distribution and artist development. Motives is customizable cosmetics and skincare. It's so much more than that too. This is just one quick soundbite. TLS is a lifestyle or weight loss education program revolving around eating real food. Web Center is a complete online marketing solution for small to medium-sized businesses. You see where I'm going here, right? So let's get a little more specific and talk about what we're here to talk about tonight, and that's Nutrimetrics. So for a health professional, Nutrimetrics is just a systemized way for health professionals to grow their practice, to help their patients get healthier, while at the same time generating a much-needed income for the practice. Very simple. For somebody who might be a prospective Nutrimetrics consultant, it's a career path for those who are passionate about making a significant impact in our country's current healthcare system. Or maybe it's a part-time career path. Or maybe it's a sideline career path, right? Because we want to meet everyone where they are. Now, a career path may not be, that phrase, be the right answer to somebody who already has a job and a career. But a part-time or a sideline career path might be the right phrase. So again, everything that we do, whether it's through Nutrimetrics or just building our business in general, it all starts with asking questions first. So this seems like a good time to just review the mission of Nutrimetrics, and that is to provide a system for health professionals to create an ongoing income while providing patients and clients with a better way to achieve optimal health. And you guys know the rest. So all I did for the soundbite was I used this, but I used the way that I would speak about it. And I got to be honest with you guys, the way that I speak about most of the stuff we do is what I've learned from trainings. I just duplicate what I learn. I try not to recreate the wheel. So now that we know what's in our back pocket, we want to be able to speak intelligently about that. So let's say if I meet a DJ or somebody who works in music, maybe a manager of some artists, I want to be able to speak intelligently enough about Conquer to pique their interest, but also let them know that it's not something I specialize in. Or if they know me as a Nutrimetrics consultant, it's kind of weird in a way that I also help develop artists. And when I say it's a little bit weird, or it can be weird, it really depends on how you position yourself and how you go about talking about it. So here's a phrase. I think this is actually in the Basic 5, if I remember correctly, or somebody in a Basic 5, I think, taught me this. So here's a phrase that you will want to memorize. It's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that, and so for the DJ, it's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that helps artists sell their music and build their brand. They get the benefits of a traditional label without having to give up control. We even have a training program for those who support artist development. It's called Conquer Entertainment and the Unlabeled. So you see the sort of the why, how, what pattern here. I may not say it's called Conquer Entertainment and the Unlabeled, but do you see what I did there with the we even have a training program? I built in the training that's required to be a Conquer Artist developer, to be a CAD, in the description about it. And I talked about it as if it were a benefit, not a requirement. So same thing for Nutrimetrics. We have a training program for all those who want to learn how to design these wellness programs. For health professionals, we even have a training program for you so you can actually learn from other doctors and health professionals how to use our products clinically in practice. So you see there's a theme here. So if I'm talking maybe to a personal trainer or a health coach or a nutritionist or an RD, I might say, now I might not say it's not something I specialize in, but let's say you don't specialize, like you could pass this information along to one of your, say, web center business partners. And you could have them learn it's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that helps trainers, nutritionists, doctors, fill in the blank, educate their clients on proper nutrition, help them look better, feel better, have more energy. And if they need to lose weight, that happens to be one of the biggest byproducts. It's called the TLS weight loss solution, right? So here we have one for web centers. There's actually two in here. So it's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that helps business owners create an online marketing strategy at a price that's within their budget. Or it's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that ensures web designers will never lose a client due to budgetary concerns. And they can even leverage our tech team for the day-to-day needs of that site with that client. It's called MA Web Centers. So you see, it's all really just variations on a theme. So let's build nutrimetrics in there, right? Now, this is something you specialize in, but again, we might want to teach our non-nutrimetrics consultant business partners this. It's not something I specialize in, but my company has it. You know, I want everyone to say it together with me, from your own computer. Just, it's not something I specialize in, but my company, okay? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. It's not something I specialize in, but my company has a division that helps health professionals generate a cash-based income stream while providing their patients with tools to support their wellness goals, or helps those in and around the medical world to support our doctors in providing wellness and preventative-based services. This is just something I made up. It's nothing official. It's just something that takes what we do and puts it into a phrase that every person can wrap their brains around, right? Okay, so I'm going to move on to a slightly different topic, and I'm going to talk about adding your why to your I am, I implement, and why this is so important. Now, if you're not getting the success that you're looking for from building a referral network, one, it takes time. It really does. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and it's just starting to pick up where people are referring business to me. So don't give up, okay? And if you are having success with it, you're probably already doing what I'm going to teach you tonight on some level. So, you know, when we talk to doctors and health professionals, we learn what their why is, their business why at least, within that first 15 minutes of meeting them. So the way that we do it is we meet someone, you know, at, say, a networking event, and, you know, what do you do? I am, I implement, and, you know, the do you know or who do you know who is the phrase I like. So if you remember back to the TED video that we watched on the first day of NC training, where Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. So here in that first sentence, we're not really talking about why we do what we do. We're talking about what we do. So I'm going to challenge you guys to do this week. And I want to be upfront with you. I gave myself the same challenge last week, and I went to a networking event and completely forgot to do this because I was in sort of auto mode at that point. I was in auto ship mode, if you will. Okay, so try doing it this way. Put your why before your I am, I implement. So you meet somebody, what do you do? I do this, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, what do you do? And then you might say, well, I'm on a mission to change our country's current sick care system into one of true healthcare. So to do that, I implement, who do you know who? So your why here needs to be really brief. And I found that using phrases or creating a picture with your words, like I'm on a mission, I'm on a journey, something like that, because it kind of already implies that you're looking for, or there are people that are already going on that trip with you. Or even if you just, you know what, I decided I'm on a mission to change our country's sick care system, and I'm looking for some great people to work with me on that mission. So you don't have to infer that you already have a team, but guess what? You do have a team. It's all of us, okay? So use the we until you have your own team we. So let's talk about building a relationship, or any relationship really. And why do we do this? The importance of it is because your network is your net worth. So when we meet somebody, say at a networking event, or waiting for a train, or at a grocery store, and we find that we have some kind of mutual interest because we led with our why before I implement, then the next step might be, let's grab a cup of coffee. So we might book a one-on-one. Now, the one-on-one that I'm talking about here tonight is not the Market America one-on-one or two-on-one to show the business plan. I'm talking about meeting up with each other to learn about each other. And if it's for business reasons, to learn about each other's businesses so that you can help refer business to each other. So you're going to ask them questions about themselves. Ask them questions about their business, their goals, their needs. Sounds like what we do in that 15-minute appointment. We just don't have a script for it, because it would be kind of weird to meet somebody for coffee and go down a form of questions. And then you're also going to make sure that you share with them about you and your business and your goals and your needs, your who do you know who, your I'm looking for a. Because it's a one-on-one, not a one-on-zero. So, if you have booked out an hour for a meeting and you're meeting with somebody and they've been talking for 45 minutes, don't be afraid. And it'll happen. It will happen from time to time. Don't be afraid to politely say, you know what, we only have 15 minutes left and I haven't been able to share with you what I do. And I'd love to share with you what I do because I know you know a ton of great people, or some variation of that. Okay? So I have a tip for you when it comes to meeting with people on this level, and that's to have zero expectations. I have an old friend, she used to say, no expectations, no disappointments. And hopes are different than expectations. You can certainly hope things go a certain way, but to expect it from somebody, because we have no control over other people, we can guide them, certainly. We can ask them questions that point them in a direction, but we really don't have control over other people. So all you're doing here at this coffee date, for example, is to share information, to exchange ideas, and simply to learn from each other. Out of that will come referrals. Or out of doing that over and over will come people that you meet that will build referrals. So again, don't meet somebody next week or this week, meet with them for coffee the next day and expect that you're going to get a, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but a lot of referrals coming your way. If you happen to sort of hit the jackpot with that great person, that's great. So a script here might be, hey, let's get together over coffee and learn about each other's businesses or each other's goals and see how we might be able to help each other out. So you see, it's very simple. It's not let's meet for coffee so I can share with you the unfranchised business plan and go over the PowerPoint of Nutrimetrics. It's let's just get together for coffee and learn about what we do. It's that simple. And when you keep it that simple, it's actually quite a joy. And when you take the expectation component out of it, it is a joy to, half of what I do is meeting people for coffee. That's my job. And that's really cool. So let's talk about booking people into a webinar and why is the webinar important. We all have busy schedules. You have a busy schedule, they have a busy schedule. So being able to plug somebody into that where they can do it from their own home or their office, depending on what coast they're on, is a really great benefit and value to the webinar. Third-party leverage, you hear Lauren talk about this a lot. If you just think about a lot of things in life, or especially if maybe you're dealing with something like with family, right? And you make a recommendation to a family member and they, even though it's correct, maybe, perhaps, they don't listen to you because you're a family member. But if somebody that they didn't even know said, oh yeah, that's the right solution, then they'll be like, oh, that is the right solution, isn't it? So that's really the simplification of third-party leverage. And also so they can see the big picture of Nutrimetrics. They can see we're a nationwide company, or division of a company. They can see that it's not just you. You know, in the health and nutrition product and service world, which of course Nutrimetrics is so very different than all those other companies, but people have, I should say, a lot of people have had a lot of experience with other people from other companies. So they just lump us, without taking the time to learn about what we do and how we're different, they lump us into that same group. And they may even think we're, you know, some fly-by-night kind of thing, because many of those companies are. So we want to make sure that they are able to see the big picture. And I want you guys to be able to show that Nutrimetrics presentation on your own, which means plugging in every Thursday until you feel comfortable doing it. And show that presentation to your stuffed animals or your sofa pillows until you feel confident enough that if you're meeting somebody for coffee, because they may not be able to plug into that webinar because of scheduling, that you can share it with them. And so here's a script for you. I'm not going to read it just for the sake of time, but you have it there. And sometimes we need to, now that script that you were just seeing was for booking them into the webinar after you've sat down and talked with them. But you may want to leverage your time, or it may just be the right next step for them to plug into a webinar before you actually sit down and learn about each other. So, and with my increasingly busy schedule, I found this to work with the people who, one, are genuinely interested, and two, are able to free themselves up for the time that the webinar is scheduled. So I say, you know, listen, I know how busy we both are, so why don't we do this? There's a live webinar this Thursday evening. If you plug in and watch, you'll have a greater understanding of what we do and who we're looking for. And that way, when we meet in person, we can spend the majority of that time talking about you and your business goals. So what I did is, again, not that the webinar is a quote unquote requirement, but I took that requirement, or them taking an hour, well, not even an hour, but taking time out of their schedule into a benefit for them. So when we meet, we can focus on you and your goals. Now, if they glean something that was from them from the webinar, that might be what you talk about in addition to their business, if you're meeting from a business networking standpoint. And I always say, you know, you can watch it from your office or at home from your pajamas. The host will stay on and answer questions. So keep a pen and paper handy to jot those questions down. I always tell people to keep a pen and paper handy, you know, to write down names, especially if I know that they've already decided Nutrimetrics is not a fit, but they're willing to be on the webinar to learn for referrals. Keep a pen and paper handy and just put the first name down of not even the first name, put the full name down, actually. Put the names down of anyone that comes to mind that you think might be a good fit for what we do, or who might benefit from some of our services. And another reason for when you're booking into a webinar, I strongly believe that we as entrepreneurs should leave as little to chance as possible. So take it upon yourself to register your guests for the webinar. I send this as a follow-up email when I do that. I'll read this just so you guys have time to write it down or screen cap it if you want it. I took the liberty of registering you for the webinar. Again, I've already talked to them about what the webinar is. You should have received an email from someone named Lauren Sauerbeck, because that's who it's going to come from, or look like it's coming from. If you don't see it, check your spam folder. You'll get a reminder 24 hours and 1 hour before the start of the webinar. If you use GoToWebinar software and have it installed, then all you need to do is click the blue GoToWebinar button in the reminder email at 9:10. Right? I don't say 9:15, I say 9:10. If you don't have the software installed, then at 9, click the same button and allow the software to install. That way you're ready to go. The software on most people's computer takes about 3 minutes maximum, but if somebody has a really slow connection, it might take them 10 minutes, and then, you know, they might freak out a little bit, and then because it's not happening fast enough and they feel like they're going to miss the webinar, and then they may just not be on the webinar at all. So set expectations. Okay, we're coming in for a landing. So follow up, and your next step is, so when we're meeting them after the webinar, whether it's in person or by phone, we're going to ask them, what do they like best? Same thing that we ask them, you know, at a UBP. But it's less weird because they don't hear other people being asked the same question, right? So you're sitting there for coffee, you plugged into I'm talking to, you know, the person that was in the webinar, you plugged into the webinar Thursday, what did you like best about it? And then I'm going to ask them why they liked that best. And why do we ask this question? Well, because it may vary. I've had it vary from oh, I really liked, the isotonics, or I really thought that TLS description was really great, or nutrigenomics is really cool. And sometimes it's, I really like the energy of the person who is giving the webinar. And so what do we do with that? So I asked them why. What was it about the energy? And then I'm going to ask them at some point, and I actually learned this from, I think it was from Lisa Kostya, Motives Director, Training Director. Where do you see yourself fitting in? When you ask them that, you're not asking them a yes or no question. You're saying, where do you see yourself? And it might be, you know what, I don't. I'm really busy with my other things in life. I think what you do is great. I just don't think it's something that's a fit for me right now. So they just told you they're a referral source, right? Maybe they say, oh, well, I actually used to have a background in nutrition. So maybe they are more of a wellness coach or a TLS coach. Or maybe they are really good with communication or have a background as a teacher. So they may be your administrative manager, your type 2 NC, but not in the practice and outside of the practice, type 2 NC. So your next step is to share with them this is the script. Sorry, I didn't put quotes. The next step is to share with you how our compensation plan works, right? If they say, oh, I need to learn more, or I see myself fitting in here, great. The next step is to share with you how our compensation plan works. We have an overview coming up in a few days. There'll be other business owners present, and you're welcome to ask them questions, of course. In fact, why don't you bring a friend or your partner with you to help you evaluate? All right, so that is the main content for tonight.